Welcome to Get to the Good Part. I'm Ryan.
I'm John.
This is Chris.
Thanks for joining us again this week. This week we talk about Chapter 9 of Ready Player One, the chapter in which we meet Artemis. Before we get started, I do want to remind everybody that on July 28th, from 7 to 9 p.m., we will be broadcasting live from Suttrie's High Gravity Tavern in downtown Knoxville, 409 South Gay Street, for those of you that can join us. We'll be doing a bastardized version of the Tomb of Horrors. Obviously, we can't run through an entire D&D module in 2 hours, so we're going to be doing something a little bit different. For those of you who listened to the last episode or follow us on social media, you know exactly what we're going to do or have an idea. But we're going to be mixing the world of Ready Player One with the world of D&D. It's going to be a lot of fun. We hope you can join us. Joining us that night will be somebody who's joining us tonight. Audrey, welcome to the show.
Hooty hoot.
Hooty hoot to you.
And she's going to be playing
Hooty hoot, Audrey.
Parsival.
I was going ICP there.
Yeah.
Woo woo.
Woo, woo. This is off to such a great start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways.
Oh man, are you glad you guys brought me on to this? I've derailed this completely.
Oh
You
no,
know,
It's not no.
You've not even
about ICP.
begun to
Don't
derail.
give yourself so much credit. We
Within
would have done
the
this
No.
shit
first 5
anyways.
seconds though.
Mm.
The record.
Yeah, there's usually about 10 to 20 minutes between intro and the actual discussion.
So we are on chapter 9. It's a chapter that begins with a very distinct line. Who the hell are you?
Can we get her to say the line?
Oh,
Yeah, you
Who
missed
the
it.
hell are you?
Who the hell are
50
you?
Shades
No,
of Oasis.
I gotta be honest with you. The very first time that I read the book, it took me back to this situation that honestly happened to me in high school. And this is a God's honest story. So there was one time my parents were not around, and my sister was having a party at the house, and some girl who I guess didn't know me. I can't remember if she just like went to like one of the neighboring schools or whatever. Walks up to me and goes, "Who the hell are you?"
In your own house.
And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like fucking stunned. I was just like, I
fucking live.
I live here.
no, my response that should have been my response. My response was, I'm going to my room.
I'm Ryan.
And she's like, oh no. Who is this? You know, like who knows this guy? And blah blah blah. And started bringing all these dudes in. So like these dudes
What?
were coming up, and they were like, you know, who are you? What are you doing here? I'm like, dude, I fucking live here. And like it took a minute. It took a minute. Like I was almost out my own door before my sister came, and she's like, nah, it's my brother. So when I read this line, because that's such a fucking ingrained in me memory, the first thing I think of is, who the hell are you? And, you know, I probably should see a therapist. But anyways, that's another,
I remember
discussion for another time.
Why didn't you
I
turn
actually
that on
remember
him?
that.
Why don't you
Anybody
know who
else
the
have
hell am
damaging
I?
memories? That
Let
they
me show
share
you
on
who the hell am
podcast
I.
tonight?
Let me get my phone for a moment. Yes, police officer. Yes, I'd like you to come to the property I live at.
Oh yeah. Well,
Let me give you the address. Turns
No,
out,
no,
you got a lot
no.
of
That's
people I
not
don't know
Ryan's
here.
Yeah,
style.
you were like
That's not Ryan's
14, right?
style.
Like 14 years old. You're not going to call the police on your sister.
Yeah, that's
One, he was
true.
probably like 16. Two,
Okay, sorry.
he tail between his legs the entire time. He was just, I'm
Oh.
sorry, guys. See ya.
Guys,
No, well,
pull my
it
head
was
out of the
okay.
toilet.
First of all, my first thought would have been, oh shit, I'm gonna get my ass kicked.
Oh man. My own kingdom.
true.
My second thought would have been, fuck Ashley.
Oh, you would? No, I agree. You would have confronted Ashley the day after and been like,
I'd be like, what the
"Ashley,
hell, man?
What the fuck? Yeah.
Like an awkward breakfast. So that wasn't
no.
cool.
Yeah. Well, you know, you would take a night to like think about, okay, how should I approach this? And then when it came to it, you'd just be like, oh, fuck. What the fuck, Ashley? Like, I thought about all this shit overnight, but really, just what the fuck
A-holes.
was that?
Well, no, I'm 34 now, so I shouldn't be thinking back on this and like angry, but I am. And I don't
Yeah.
know why.
Your
like I
16-year-old
shouldn't I
memory.
shouldn't still be like harboring any vitriol for this situation. Should be like, kids will be kids, but no, like I don't know why.
Well,
That's really dysfunctional.
Brian, this is where we hash it out in a podcast live. with
That's
thousands of
right.
people.
Yeah. What better
Oh,
place
yeah.
to air my fucking grievances about
Yeah.
my sister than live?
Oh.
Ash, if you're listening, Sorry, bro.
Sorry.
Sorry, bae.
It's my church.
So, like, reading this
Okay.
chapter was a flashback for you? Is that what we're basically
There's
getting?
one.
You're having, like, PTSD from your 16-year-old self flashing forward over this book? Like, who the hell are you? Fuck this book. Fuh.
Who the
Damn
hell
it.
are you?
Calls his sister, starts crying on the phone. God damn it, why did you have friends like that? You know,
Why are you gonna be an
talking to the
asshole?
therapist, rocking in his chair. This fucking book brought it all back.
God.
Well, thankfully, Artemis is not my sister.
Yeah.
It's her friend.
So I've spoiled the surprise for you. The person saying, "Who the hell are you?" is actually Artemis, the subject of much of Wade's obsession over the past few years through the hatchery. She's a popular blogger amongst Gunters, and she comes into the Tomb of Horrors. At this point, it's revealed basically that Wade is not, in fact, the first person who's found the Tomb of Horrors on Ludus. That's something that I think goes unexplored in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
There's really not a lot of discussion about the fact that, or like, I guess, you know, this entire book is Wade's inner monologue, but there's really not a whole lot of coverage on the fact that he is not the first person that found this. That should take him back a little bit, or at least strip his ego slightly, you would think.
I think it did a little bit, but what I did think about was what we discussed last chapter was just farming the shit out of that gold room, the gold and silver room. Now she's saying that she's been there. Well, she says 3 weeks and then 5 weeks when she, and she's a level 52. Is that correct? So it's very possible that those weren't her intentions to farm it, but in those 5 weeks that she's ventured into the Tomb of Horrors has upgraded so much because of that. You know, she knows that it resets at midnight, so she may have been farming it, you know?
You know what
Yeah,
I
but-
wonder? Well, I was just wondering why the armor and the sword and all those things that he collected on that level were there for him. You know what I mean? Like, once he was playing the game and everything, like he was collecting all this armor, and she even comments on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why she wouldn't have collected that for the course of 5 weeks.
Well,
Taking it for herself.
I think what she's trying to say at that point is she's a level 52.
Oh yeah.
She
got it.
knows the armor and stuff that's like, throughout that module or
Got
throughout
it.
that instance. So what she's saying is that was probably too low level for her.
Yeah, I feel you.
But I mean, it's like anything. I mean, like you've been working your ass off to get to that instance in the game. You're probably going to remember most, if not all, things. So we're taking notes, just to know what you're going to come across. I want to get into. I want to unpack that a little more later because we're kind of jumping the gun. Let's focus on the introduction of the.
Sure.
You would figure at the very beginning of this chapter would be the point where they would tackle the fact that like Wade, I mean, he's almost the first clue that came out. He what was it, the what's the fucking name of it? What did he call it? The guy that found a clue, and he said that all a bunch of Gunters had found it before that guy did.
Oh
and he
yeah.
was the
Pendergast.
first one to come out and say it.
Pendergast.
What was it?
Oh,
Pendergast.
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 Pendergast. Yeah, like pulling a Pendergast. He I mean, he kind of pulls apart Pendergast, for coming out and saying that. That's for a slightly different reason, but you can see a little bit of resentment there in the competition, right? Now, it's interesting here that, I mean, obviously he doesn't have as much resentment towards somebody that he's kind of pined after, in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still kind of interesting that it doesn't really strike me throughout this chapter that there's any shot to his ego. And I'm not saying because a girl found it first, but that anybody found it first. And you would figure that there
Okay.
would be. Like
Okay.
because he, I mean, he's sort of, he knows all the lines, he's done all the digging. This
Yeah.
occurred to him and he was like, fuck, like I found it.
I think the fact that he beat
Serac.
a Serac and obtained the copper key,
Yeah.
and then realized that it was Artemis is what prevented him from having that reaction.
And,
the
you
like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I did this first. Who the hell are you? Response. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think the fact that he got the copper key, he knows or doesn't, but I'm assuming he would, even though he's kind of shocked by another person being in there, he quickly realizes that Artemis doesn't have the copper key. So he's got one up on her. So I think that's what kind of prevents him
Okay,
from
I
having
see what
that
you're saying.
reaction.
Plus, he's in awe of her, blog and being a follower for years and years, and that's obviously gonna.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. He even says he's kind of starstruck.
yeah,
Yeah.
It even says he has to break his paralysis by imagining that maybe this person isn't even a woman at all. But I think it's kind of cool that when you meet not only somebody that you're crushing on, but also have an enormous amount of respect for. I mean, you don't want to meet anyone else in that kind of situation. There are just select few individuals that you would go, yeah, that person's awesome enough to be here, that you would expect to possibly run into them almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are two things this reminds me of. Well, not reminds me of, but there were two things that came across to me in this part of the episode. One speaks to what you were talking about just now, Chris. And the first time that I read the book, I was kind of afraid that we were going to run into this situation. I feel like it would have been a really interesting take on the story. Was what the fuck was his name? From Empire Records? Was it Rex?
Oh yeah, Rex.
Mantooth?
Somebody
fuck is his
Google that
name?
shit
Are
real
you talking
quick.
about?
I said that's Dorothy Mantooth from fucking Anchorman. No, Rex.
You're talking
Manning.
about the
Rex Manning. Rex Manning. Like, I wondered if it was going to be, because it would have been really interesting if Artemis was sort of a reverse Rex Manning, where instead of it being like this just like cocksure ego douchebag, like it was a girl in the Rex Manning sort of character. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I like. Honestly,
Like, she's a real
the first half of
person.
this chapter, I kind of expected like a Rex Manning kind of character.
Yeah.
Really.
I think what
Yeah.
makes her so attractive to him is that she is a real person that he could be friends with and respect, shoot the shit with, and that's it,
Is that you already know you have so much in common that there are a lot of levels that they could begin to interact on, and that for the moment she's going to even give him the time of day to say, who the hell are you? Is not only shocking but also kind of like, holy shit, she's speaking to me. She wants to know who I am.
Right.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
the second thing that occurred to me at this point in the chapter is she is dressed exactly like I would imagine Prince would dress in this fucking situation. She is the purple one in this situation. Just this like
Purple? I thought
fucking
she was blue.
skin suit, elvish sword, blaster pistols at the hip.
I
Yeah.
reread this today and I forgot her hair was like cropped and bright red. Like I thought it was long, but it is
It's
cropped.
raven color.
It's raven.
Raven.
Oh, raven.
Red, yeah.
Okay, not red.
Yeah.
Sorry. Then good.
It's so raven.
That's so raven.
It's so raven.
Thank you,
Am
Ryan.
I the only one that thought that?
Ryan did.
when I was originally reading,
No, sir,
through
I am
this-
as immature as you.
Okay.
When I was originally reading through this, I was thinking Ellen Page, but when I was doing a little more research, Hit Girl from Kick-Ass, I won't say exactly matches
Ye-
this persona, but damn close.
Yeah,
I mean-
is she the same girl that is in Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Yes, that's exactly who I
Yes.
was thinking of.
That's who I thought of. Now I don't know who's cast as her in the movie.
Yep, that's what I
I've
imagined.
stayed away from IMDb, but that's that's exactly what I thought of.
Chris, what was the name of the girl that Goff brought up? And he made a really fucking good point.
Well, was it Jordan
It starts
from Real
with an
Genius,
M.
which he hits on later and maybe earlier.
Yeah, but he made a really good point when he brought
What's that?
that it might have been modeled after that. Hold on.
Well, later on, when he's talking about how she interacts and how she talks, and she just kind of goes under this sort of speed-laced talking flibberty gibbet thing, it very much reminds me of Jordan from Real Genius. So I looked up a couple clips from the movie today, and it's just this sort of very quick and off the top of the head, and not really controlling that flow of thought.
Is real
Michelle Merrick.
Mm-hmm.
Is Real Genius
Is that how
in
you
the
pronounce
80s?
her last name?
Mm-hmm.
Marink? Is
It
it
is.
Marink or
I
Marink?
don't know.
85.
I don't remember that one.
Well, if you look up Michelle Marink, Meyrinck, like you look it up and you're like, holy shit. Like that's
Is it Brie Larson? Is Brie Larson the girl I'm thinking of? And
No, I looked it up. It's Mary Elizabeth from Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I
had to
could
look
see
up
that
'cause I didn't know
too.
her name. Yeah.
I was just thinking, the guns, the purple, the cropped hair. I was just
Yeah.
like, that's practically
I
the
can
whole
see that.
outfit, short of plate armor.
Yeah.
yeah, you'll recognize her the moment you see her.
Back it up a bit.
I can't
Wow, that's
see
bright.
via through the screen because it's
Like
all
like
bright.
a small
but,
sun.
Like a solar
I've
eclipse.
never seen
No.
I've never seen the movie, but I feel like they look very similar.
They do. Yeah,
Yeah.
and her mannerisms are fairly similar. I mean, like it's obviously the character as a whole is borrowed from a lot of different sources. I
Yeah.
don't think it's one thing in particular.
Well, it's got to be
But-
a badass, sexy female character, right?
Right. And like again, as much as I go back to it, I feel like this is a level editor too. I really do. And I don't want to get too far into that again because I know a lot of people just, but I really do.
I think, again, the thing that made her so attractive to him was that even though she was so cool, she was vulnerable and dorky and a real person and a friend, and that's what he was excited about. Like,
And he had something to talk to her about.
yeah, exactly.
I mean that
Mhm.
kind of contributes to the point, but yeah, I mean like he actually had something to talk with, like he had common ground.
Yeah, they shared the same main interest. She kind of sees through his bull.
Okay.
Don't-
We'll let you
Don't
guide this.
spoil it for me, man.
Yeah.
Don't spoil the chapter for me.
Jeez.
Don't
You guys
do
have
it.
to like bite your tongue
Like if there's one
to
person
spoil the fucking book. I'm not
if
spoiling a
there's
goddamn
one person
chapter.
you can't say that to, it's the one guy on the fucking podcast who has no idea what's gonna happen after this chapter.
I
He's
did
familiar
get
with the
I
spoiler.
did guess Artemis though. I cut it out
did?
of the last episode.
Well,
But I did
in the
guess
last
it.
episode you
Oh.
didn't. Here's like again to let you in on this. The reason the last episode was so delayed is we recorded it 3 times.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think in one of them you mentioned that Artemis was probably it.
Two of
Did you
them.
mention in the last episode?
And
I can't
2 of
remember.
them I did. I just cut it out of the last one.
So there's a moment of pause here between Artemis and Parzival, which is interrupted by Artemis saying, "Cat got your tongue." I feel like her character shifts drastically
Yes.
as they start to as they start to warm up to one another, because she starts off like she appears like a real femme fatale kind of character,
Mhm.
and then she plays it up, which I think is weird. It's almost like I can't tell what part of this chapter he's fantasizing and which is exactly how it happened, because remember, we're hearing this through Wade's mind,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. I don't know.
No, I think the fact that she realizes that he has some leverage on her, and then she has to humble up and say, "Look, I'm sorry, I was such a,
Yeah.
and and that's where the breakdown from the front that is Artemis to her as a real human being surfaces. In that, oh come on, stick around. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be such a dick. It's that kind of that apology that kind of breaks into being human.
Yeah, I think they're feeling each other out to judge each one's genuine interest or genuine nature
Yeah.
in the quest or just in the situation,
Brian, this makes me think of your question of what do you think her actual background is? And I feel like when they finally get to this point, they're expressing who they actually are, and she comes off as kind of lonely, and I wonder why she is so lonely. She's so independent, and proud of it, but
Mhm.
then it's like she doesn't want him to leave, and I just wonder if what part of her real life makes her act that way,
Will you elaborate on that, because that's kind of an interesting.
It is very interesting.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much I can elaborate on it, but she steps in front of him and just completely breaks down all of her barriers, which she built up and took so much time to, like coming across as this theatrical kind of person with taking off the Ray-Bans and everything. Then all of a sudden she's a real human who's very vulnerable, and scary for her, and she's excited and energetic, and she doesn't want him to leave. She's just a lonely person.
So do you think that's just encountering another person, or do you think it's digging him, or she's like impressed by the fact that she's met somebody who I mean, like, really, if you think about it, for as long as Gunters have been looking for the egg or the first key, right? If you're standing in the same room as somebody and you had no idea who they are, right? You just run into them in the one fucking instance of this thing in the entire Oasis, which is a universe wide. Like, you're standing in front of somebody who is a true intellectual being.
Yeah. I think the loneliness is like that early Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie bit, where you have two people that are really, at the time, at the height of their careers, incredibly popular, really kind of untouchable because of the popularity, the position of popularity they're in. And then to be able to find each other and recognize, God, not only is this a peer that's obviously equal to me, but not a bad person. Holy shit, somebody I can talk to. And to keep all of this shit secret to begin with, to have to hold all of this in, and to finally have somebody to actually talk about it with, that's, she wouldn't have that. And neither really has Parzival. He kind of has with H, but I don't know that she has an H. That's never introduced into the book.
That's a good point.
Wade is a fairly lonely guy outside of the Oasis.
I'd say most people would.
Yeah, so that's the thing that I thought of when you mentioned loneliness are the Gunters at this point 5 years into the hunt. Are the Gunters that are this dedicated, that lonely outside of the Oasis? Obviously, Parzival has H and the basement and everything where he Artemis has her blog, but outside of the Oasis, are they lonely enough to dedicate themselves to the hunt to that extreme?
I'd say if you weren't, then you are part of a what is it?
Corporation.
What the fuck is the group?
It's a harem, is what you're
No,
looking for.
where the Gunters come together and play.
A clan.
ICP
Thanks. I was
festival.
gonna say clan, but did they call it a clan in the book?
Juggalos.
Juggalos, okay.
A juggalo
You could
meetup.
just say juggalos. You could, if you would just started with face paint, I would have understood.
Yeah.
Kankakee, Illinois.
God.
You make a very interesting point there, though. I mean,
Yeah.
but it calls to question me another point, which is, what's motivating them? I don't think loneliness was what was motivating Wade. Even though up to this point in the book, you kind of feel like it's part of it, or like a search for meaning. But I don't know that that's really what it was. I don't think it was because he was lonely or anything like that. I think he was searching for a way out.
Yeah.
Of loneliness.
But I'm just saying, like, loneliness might be a quality that the diehard Gunters at this point embody.
Yeah, sure.
Or the world. I mean, at this point, if you think about it, I mean, if everybody's been living in this simulation for how many years now? I mean, it was going on since he was a kid. So we're talking about, close to 20 years.
Yeah.
Surely,
close.
Surely the Oasis is a treat for Lone, and this whole hunt could be a distraction, and maybe he doesn't realize that, but when he meets Artemis might be another way to relieve that loneliness from the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he talks about that when he meets H. When we meet H, one of the things he talks about pretty heavily is the fact that, I never had a friend, but now I have a friend. And it's because we met,
via the
on
hunt.
This topic. Or I mean, we had this common ground. So it's like, it's an entry point for a conversation.
Yeah.
Here, there is no entry point. I mean, here he's forced into this situation. It's fortunate for him that he actually knows who she is, because if he didn't know who she was, he probably would have insulted her.
I don't know if he would have insulted her. He was pretty intimidated by her appearance. And he was only level 10. Just reached level 10 by the Tomb of Horrors. I think he was cautious because he was worried at first, is this a PvP zone? And is she going to slaughter me? Is she going to take the key? Which he says, he finds out later that it's non-transferable, blah, blah, blah. But he was worried that, like, I've got the key. She can take my ass out in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I have no business being here. I'm just gonna skip out of here really quickly.
Yeah, he thought about running.
Yes. Don't pay attention to
I
me.
What's
think
that over there?
Amongst your tech and geeky and nerdy fields, it always feels when you got a number of individuals that come together over a particular topic, where knowledge is the pecking order. Where you have individuals that kind of come together and they start to kind of compete. When you've reached a place like this, you don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. It's nice to actually talk with somebody that is a peer in the things that you know without having to kind of do the sword play in advance.
Yeah.
I have this when I read it, and this actually kind of came to me through I think probably like on my third read through I started reading it this way. But it's really kind of interesting. Like, you've heard of the concept of like old money versus new money, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that Artemis is a fucking millionaire, okay? But she's a level 52, so clearly she's been decently funded. Whether that's through her blog, I mean, like, she's obviously earned it. I mean, but she's level 52. It takes a while, clearly. I mean, if Wade's level 3, he goes up 7 levels doing something that nobody in the fucking world could do but her, and he only goes up to level 10, get to level 52 has got to be pretty impressive through regular gameplay, right? So
and schooling.
It's to me, it's like this old money, new money kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Where she's sort of old hat. She was decently funded, so she's not wanting in the same way that Wade is, it seems to me, and I may be reaching a bit there, but that's never really clarified throughout the book. But Wade is sort of this new money characters in terms of having the success of being this, the person that finds the copper key and everything like that. I mean, shit, he's level 10, she's level 52. So to her, this kind of encounter, I mean, she's encountered, I'm sure, several other Gunters, several of the guys who have looked at her starry-eyed. None of them have found the key. And then here's Wade. He finds his way into the situation. When you're the new money character in a new money, old money situation, I mean, there's sort of this pride that goes along with it. And, I've earned my way. I'm the, I found my way here. But then there's also this intimidation about it, which is, do I really deserve to be here? And I saw that dichotomy in the conversation between the two of them. And I thought that was really interesting too. Because I like, you can feel his sort of his ego wavering a little.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
He's holding back his pride.
Right.
In his responses. He's like, well, she says such and such, and I feel pretty proud about what I've done, but I can't respond that way. So I got to hide that a little bit.
Well, that's self-preservation too, like we were saying. But right, I think the underlying
his
thing
immediate
was
response is pride.
You say old money, new money, but he basically just went through the dollar store of armor and equipment.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Which was a level. And then he meets up with her, and she's, she kind of eyes him up and down and goes, look, I know that you got this shit from in here. Okay. Really, honestly, what I was thinking was no money, old money. I was expecting her to say, Parzival, draw me like you draw the French women.
It would be like winning the fucking lottery and buying the most expensive pair of Lee dungarees they sell at the fucking Walmart.
But even so, like, the amount of money that he's got and the stuff he's got isn't like, if he's winning the lottery, this is like coming out of the gas station having won $2,000.
Yeah, he should be losing his $1 million.
Shit.
Yeah,
exactly.
And he's like, I earned this $2,000, and she's like, okay.
Yeah, so what? Motherfucker. Like, I'm here too.
And these dungarees are comfy.
You're still wearing Airwalks.
So, real quick, Ryan, I wanted to mention too, I also noticed that he mentions that she must have an expensive rig, because you can see, and he probably just had the basic, like, I'm in Skyrim and I'm talking to you and I'm moving my mouth kind of deal, but she could actually blush and all of this stuff. And I was like, and again, it made me think of her backstory. I was like, who is she? She has money. She's in high school. So she probably hasn't earned much of that money on her own. And I'm just thinking like she's just kind of this neglected daughter in a in a bedroom kind of deal.
It's fucking Molly Ringwald, man.
It
It's
is.
fucking Molly Ringwald.
Yeah.
With a bob
In
cut.
every movie. Well, except for
If-
Pretty in
if
Pink.
she
She's
was-
pretty
yeah, if
poor in
she
that
was a
movie.
little-
Sure,
but
why not?
Into sci-fi and shit.
Not Pretty in Pink, Molly Ringwald.
Not Pretty in Pink.
No,
more like
because
Breakfast
that
Club
Molly
Ringwald.
Ringwald would have got
If she
with
were into
Ducky,
sci-fi.
okay? That shit would have ended like that. That's how it was supposed to be.
They would have had 9 children.
What's
They
that?
would have been beautiful.
I'm not sure that was
I wasn't
going
going to go that far.
Not with a name like Ducky.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe.
Ducky Jr.
Ducky Jr. Duckling.
Oh.
Fucking John Cryer. The paramount of his career is being Charlie Sheen's shitty little brother.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's
on a
unfortunate.
CBS
Well,
sitcom.
and
Isn't
then
it?
Ashton Kutcher's
Like the
fucking
coolest,
whatever. I
Right.
don't know what the hell Ashton Kutcher was on that show.
like the coolest guys from your childhood just end up growing up into just adulting.
Whoa. I don't know
Well,
if Ducky was
maybe-
ever the
Hey, what
coolest
about the
guy ever.
Corys? The Corys
When a
turned
guy
out
goes
great.
into a record shop and to schmooze the ladies, lip syncs to Otis Redding while dancing.
That's
how-
charming
That's
as
not
fuck,
mind-blowing.
Chris.
Yeah,
How
that's
the
not
f-
mind
how
blowing.
the-
That's almost loser-esque.
That's charming as
Man.
fuck, man.
Oh my god! Like
Nah.
I'm like writing notes on those kind of moves.
I'd never
That's
have done
freaking
that. I
awesome.
would never
I
have
don't
done
think
that. But
anyone
that is
has.
charming.
How
But
could that not impress
everyone?
the two ladies at the front?
Try it.
I don't
Right.
know. I kind of
Go into the
feel-
record
42.
store now and try
That's
it.
not going to come out well. You know, for me, it's going to be more like maybe if I
Exactly.
lip synced Meatloaf. I don't.
No, that's no better. That's no better.
I would do anything for love. You know,
Yeah, don't do
Right,
that.
people would walk
No.
out, or it'd either be people walking out or people raising their phones to record this bullshit. that's
I'm hoping
happening
for the
right
slow
now.
clap.
Like,
I would
can
be,
you believe
if I
this?
won the lot. Just for the record, I wanted it to be. I wanted to fucking go down in stone. Podcast listeners, anybody who's listening to this, fucking make sure this goes public, John. This part. If I ever win the lottery, I will pay $1 million fucking to record you doing the entire Bat Out of Hell album.
who me?
Yes, you.
Yeah.
Fucking done. Where?
Well, you got to wait till I
Record
win the
store.
lottery.
Okay, all right, $1 million.
Now, are you
Jesus
are you
Christ, that would be
paying
good.
Chris? Or are you gonna like give it to charity?
No, I would give it to Chris
Okay.
because that's the only way
Yeah.
you would do it.
What about all
That's
those
right,
homeless
but he doesn't-
dogs?
And I might give some to charity.
It is endearing. No, I always thought Ducky was a very endearing character. He was very sincere.
No, I thought it was cool. I didn't think he was the bee's knees, though.
Here's
Like
the thing.
Chris did.
Here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
H is who H is, right? I mean,
Yes.
you take a look at these characters in movie. Like, I'm trying to think of one. Like, John Bender was fucking John Bender in Breakfast. You know what I mean? Ferris Bueller was fucking Ferris Bueller in Ferris
Yeah.
Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
Ducky was fucking Ducky. And whether you think that's cool or endearing or not, he didn't care. He was sincere, though. And
Yes, but
You
you
don't
put the
get that
three
a
of
lot.
them in a room together, and Ducky's the least coolest out of the three.
the
I
least
just,
coolest,
oh, I don't know.
try it again. And then you can edit that one out.
Yeah, how is the
Least cool.
The less cool.
The
The-
left
the-
cool.
the less cool
Ooh, the
out of
coolest.
the
Cool
three?
least.
The coolest. Well,
Cool
No.
least.
Zero cool.
The other
if
two
you
are
wanna bring it
cooler than
back.
Ducky.
delete all
That's
that.
all. I'll say that. The you put the three of them in a room together, and the other two are cooler than Ducky.
I think you could replace Ferris Bueller with Ducky's character in Ferris Bueller, and that would work. Like, I think
Yes.
he would come off cool
You would.
as Ducky in that movie because they put him on that pedestal. Just because they didn't put him on that
That's a good
pedestal in
point.
Pretty in Pink.
I felt that
That's a
way
good
about
point.
like Napoleon Dynamite. I know some people hate that movie, but whenever he dances in front of the entire school and everyone flips their shit, I'm like, yeah, that guy is the best person in the entire world.
Yes.
That's how
So
I
he was
feel.
Ducky.
Yeah, he was Ducky at that moment. He's like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's situational. I mean, here's the thing. Ducky is the guy who everybody fucking laughs at in high school, goes off to make $1 million, is the most lovable fucking person in the world. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's a mix of circumstances. Like
Talking about the
like
dude
think about
from
it this
Romeo
way.
and
Like
Michelle's high school
Thank
reunion.
you. Thank
I
you. I
make
was going to
yes.
say that.
Yes.
I love
Like
that
I'm
guy.
34 years old. If I turned on like if I went into the kitchen tonight and like my wife was on her way to get a drink and I put on Otis Redding and I started like trying to dance with her, she would think it was charming as shit. Now, if I did that when I first met her, she would think I was creepy and would never want to talk to me again.
I want to have her on here.
Who, my wife?
Yeah.
If I did that, my wife would ask me how drunk. Not
So-
going to.
So to break the tension, and this is again talking about endearing. This is an endearing part of the book because we've got Artemis, we've got Parzival meeting each other for the first time, and what do? This is sort of a telling part of their relationship, I think, as the book goes on. How do they break the tension? They both start quoting the same movie, right? And that's sort of a kitschy but
Yeah.
endearing part. Like, I mean, like you would expect that that's how two people, you know what
That's
I mean?
how you met
it
your
seems
first
very
love.
Yeah,
Yeah, you reference
Is-
something that you both love and you bond over
Yeah.
it.
right. I mean, like, like when I met my wife, I think the first thing that we talked about, we met at a party, and I think the first thing we talked about was Frank Lloyd Wright. We kind of bonded over that. I guess in this world, you can bond over Highlander, or in any world, really.
Mhm.
No, I don't recommend it. It did not go well. Couple of words.
Is that how you and Grant met?
Couple of words were said that I don't feel good about.
Okay.
I guess it's
Well,
better.
now
than-
you've got a story you got to tell.
No.
Yeah.
Highlander was not our first conversation.
Really? You didn't look at him and say, "Who the hell are you?"
Ah, man.
His response was,
Juan
"I'm Juan
Sanchez
Sanchez
Villalobos
Villalobos Ramirez. At your service."
Sean Connery.
Sean
Oh
Connery.
no! Don't do it.
Oh, his
Oh,
is so
she's
much
already
better.
there.
Yeah.
He can actually do it too. So.
Wish I had a wall right here so I could head it.
That's what your mother said, John. She banged it all night.
God
Boom,
damn it,
boom.
Chris.
He's just shaking
Are
his
you
head.
all right? Does that hurt
First of
your
all, it's a
head?
bad impression.
No, let's just wait. Let's wait 2 minutes. Let the Sean Connery work itself out.
Oh, I think I'm banned. Everything.
Oh, is that
wrong.
John? You want me to work it out?
Jesus fucking Christ.
Uh,
Stop. I've got something serious to say, folks. Just listen to me. I don't know why that was Jimmy Stewart and Sean Connery talking
Yeah.
at the same time. I apologize.
Oh no! I was just imagining sticking this knife straight up,
Yeah.
and slowly
I
pressing
was just
my eye
imagining what it would
against
feel
it.
like if I put a pencil like this and just slam my fucking head down.
So what do you all think about her little avatar? All of the craziness of her avatar, and and what do you think she's trying to do there with her armor and her elvish sword and the blaster can
The blaster pistols.
blaster pistols? Yes.
To be honest with you, like, and maybe this is just because I'm shallow about it, but like, I just thought it was sort of a compilation of the shit she was interested in.
I agree.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
exactly how I mean, because he says she's like a somewhat stocky female coming into the room, and then she's got the sword and the blaster pistols. I don't feel like she's hiding anything, or she's
I-
pretending to be anything that she doesn't feel inside.
Chris, what do you think?
I think that I agree with them. I think that what she's done is she's kind of gone into the world, and she has created her avatar based on the stuff that she's interested in. Like, it's not one thing or another, and I can't reflect on how
Don't do it.
that's no,
Don't do
because
it.
it's going to dip into other chapters,
I know.
future chapters. Are you saying don't do it? I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But it's her in the sense that it's an amalgamation of the stuff that she likes from a number of places, and it comes together as her own style.
Mhm.
Now, the way that she comes off is very much like a caricature. She pulls the glasses up, looks him up and down. The glasses don't do anything for you in the game. This is a emotion. This is a symbolic gesture of contempt for
So
him.
do you think it's
being
do you think
there.
it's like it's like a self-consciousness thing at that point, or do you
I think
think
that's
it-
an intimidation factor.
So you think it's posturing?
Yeah.
Yeah, just I'm going to raise the glasses, show who I know she's female, but the alpha male in the room is.
I think you hit
You
it
know.
there, and that's what I was trying to get at. Because I like playing games too, and like in Skyrim, I'm a dark elf with red eyes. I've got a scar across my face. I have a huge orc hammer. You know what I mean? I'm a dork.
Badass.
Obviously. Yeah, but I want to
Yeah.
come
Badass.
off as a fucking badass. I don't want to
Yeah.
come off as
Yeah.
a girly girl, and I think she is making an impression that
Right.
like take me seriously. And
This is her
that, I
level of
think, is
that's
very
badassery.
female. Yeah, I identified with that for sure.
See, and that's interesting too, because like I don't know, like it's odd to think about it that way.
The
I don't
female
know, I
perspective.
honestly, from the very get-go, I felt like she could hold her own,
Oh yeah.
especially against Parzival.
I just assumed she could, yeah.
But as the chapter goes on,
You see that
she
unfold a little bit.
sheds a little bit of that persona.
Yeah.
But
See,
she still
it-
doesn't.
like,
She
and-
still
and
doesn't
here's-
seem fake in any way.
The
No.
way that I read that, though, was that she was becoming more natural because she was like, oh, I can let my guard down a little bit.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You're not a
Right.
threat.
Exactly. Like it's almost her
Level
alter
10.
ego, or not even
Yeah.
alter ego, but like an embellishment of, all of the strengths that she portrays, and then she can kind of drop her guard a little bit and be herself.
Right.
But right off the bat, she's got to act tough, and
Right.
I get that.
It's so
point.
straight. Like for some reason, that is just
It's blowing
like,
your
that
mind.
Had not.
Yeah, it is blowing his mind because he's been speechless for the past 5 minutes.
Well, no, like it's not that it's so far from my realm of understanding that I don't
No,
connect the
yeah.
dots. But
Right.
it's just like it's like anything that you read. Like you read it in your own tone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way that I've always read her character is that, like, and I don't want to get too far into this because I don't want to spoil the rest of the book, but like I don't feel like she ever really loses that confidence, if that makes any sense.
I don't think
Can
that
I-
you have to lose confidence. in
You're
order
gonna
to-
bring up the rest of the chapter.
No.
No, I'm talking to John.
Oh, okay.
Well, no. I was actually going to ask, like, for the three of us, we read it from Parzival's,
Right.
but did you read it from her point of view in a way?
This time around, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because again, Ryan asked me the perspective, and I was like, okay, what is she trying to do, and could I see being in her and why she would act certain ways? And it's a roller coaster of different personalities, and it's hard to follow them. And then I've come to realize who she is. She's really just this girl who'd be liked and talked to.
Yeah. I think this chapter would definitely be. I think this chapter would definitely be interesting to read multiple times from point of view.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is like by your description right there. I mean, if you think about it, and we're given the privilege of the perspective of the narrator, that's almost exactly what Wade's doing.
Yeah.
It worked.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, he's doing the same thing. So there's not
yeah.
a huge departure of character, like gender wise.
Yeah.
What I'm
It
saying
just
is, like,
lacks the
he's-
inner monologue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like I think that's something that ties the two of them together. Maybe like I don't,
It would be.
psychologically.
It would really be interesting to read this with her inner monologue.
Yes.
I'd be curious. I'd like to see a book from her perspective.
Exactly. I'd love to know her
Yes.
background and everything. I want like a fan fiction, novel to be written about what.
Well, that's kind of why I'm hoping that it's based around his wife, because she's actually a pretty decent writer. In her
Maybe
own
she
right.
would approach it from her.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be pretty interesting.
It would be. I mean, I'm only 9 chapters in, and this is the only chapter that I really have of Artemis. But it's so interesting how their interaction is throughout this chapter and how it develops from the beginning of the chapter to the end of the chapter.
Let's take stock here. Okay, we've gone through 9 chapters of this book. Okay, we're not even halfway through yet. But
No,
this
we're
is
here.
one of the longer chapters we've had so far.
Yeah.
Page-wise. Yes.
It's pretty long.
It is.
It's like 7 or 8 pages.
It didn't feel that way when I
It's,
was reading it.
Yeah, it felt really short actually.
it's like 13 pages.
Wow. And there are some chapters that have been like 4 pages.
Exactly.
Not necessarily pages, but
No,
yes,
we've
there have been
had a
some
few
short-
4-page chapters.
4 pages, John. Are you killing yourself just having to read one of these?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I actually did. This is going to be cut. I'm going to place a cut, edit point, clap, cut. I read this chapter today
Okay.
for the first time.
That's how he does
and
it.
I read it twice.
Just because
but
it was something to read.
No, it's just
Because we had to record
I feel
tonight.
like my perspective on this podcast is the now. This is Ryan and Chris know what happens next, and I give them credit for trying to stay within the confines of the chapter. But
hard.
I have to. It is hard
It's
because I have to
hard.
stop you guys. Not that I have to stop you, but you guys both stop yourselves. Like, I want to say something, but I can't. Me, I have to say, don't say anything. I only know this right now.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I like. I think what it brings out in the discussion is it just adds quality to the conversation.
It's focused.
Yeah, it's nice that I feel like we delve into certain things, and some of it's unintentional, but we delve into certain things that maybe aren't necessarily thought of if you've read the book in its entirety, which is why I think the podcast is somewhat successful.
Yeah. It feels
Well,
like
it's-
being in high school and being in an English class, and you're following just a few chapters. And I was the dork. I read a few chapters ahead, but then I have to
Yeah.
go back, and you're just examining just a couple chapters at a time, so you can really pick apart like the symbolism and all these things that you missed because you're so
Yeah.
excited about the hunt and just the puzzle.
Yeah. Well, and there's
figuring it
certain
out.
points in each chapter that might be overlooked when you read it just one time all the way through. And I really think that, especially this chapter, the interaction between Artemis and Wade, the way it starts and the way it ends tells in itself tells an entire story. If you
love
read it all
dialogue.
the way through, I mean, if you read on to chapter 10, you're probably not thinking a whole lot about how that conversation develops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
because you're
there
on to
are
the next
certain
level.
Qualities, yeah, but there are certain qualities of that conversation that I've discussed in the hour and a half so far.
Yeah.
But there's certain points in that conversation, or just appearance, like judging each, that just bring out a different level in the story.
After what can only be described as a back and forth between two starstruck lovers, or not, who knows?
At least on one side.
I don't even know how
Yeah.
to transition to
Yeah,
this fucking part.
very clearly on one side.
Let me ask you this: were you never in a situation where you met somebody that you had never talked to before? You were very smitten with them, and at the end of the conversation, you didn't say to yourself, "I think that showed a little bit, and I might have been creepy."
Yeah, but a little bit.
Everybody has.
Yeah, a little bit though.
Everybody has.
And
I'd
again,
like to call Grant into the conversation at this point.
Oh,
It's like fun walking up to your favorite music star, your favorite artist, and bumping into them, and then trying to act like, oh, I'm gonna play cool.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
hey,
that I can understand.
I'll say, just being from a somewhat small music background, you occasionally encounter people.
Oh,
that
we
you
had
look
those
up to.
moments. We had those fucking moments.
And I mean, to this day, I still think idiot
Yeah.
to them.
Probably.
But that's the perfect correlation with this chapter, though, because Wade is a fan of Artemis.
Okay. So
But
if
he's
I
trying
to
not
play
to
it off
pretend
like
he's a fan of Artemis.
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Then
right.
to go back to my original creeped out statement.
It's okay.
If I think about it as a fan to a musician, I understand it. But if it is just a guy and a girl, it just seemed like it escalated quickly. And I know he's been collecting photos in a folder. Again, creepy. But I don't know. It's just he
John knew
it
where
was
he was
really-
from.
Yeah, no. Well,
Like,
I knew he was from Texas. I knew he was from around Texas. But no, regarding this chapter and Wade and Artemis, like, I know he's kind of smitten over Artemis, but he doesn't get creepy over it.
No.
He's like,
We have
I
the inner
recognize
monologue.
you. Yeah,
Well,
I recognize you.
Well, there's the part where he's almost going chapter and verse on her blog post.
Yeah, like
So I see where she's coming from.
Here's the exact date. I have them memorized in my
I
folder.
I had to not say the specific date so I didn't sound creepy.
Like a creepy guy.
Right.
Yeah, he's
But
literally
he doesn't,
steering
at
away
this
from being
point, he
creepy.
doesn't really reference other blog posts other than hers.
Now, I want to say this because I feel like it's important to say, okay, that the fine line between creepy and not is hard to locate.
I think it's an R word.
Because here's the reason, right?
It's a
I'm
thin
not going to
mustache.
tell. I'm like, if you're a teen girl and you're listening to this podcast, and a guy walks up to you at a party and he's like, "I remember when you tweeted this in 2016 on May the 25th."
Exactly.
Like, don't trust that he's just like a guy with a good memory that could be a really good dude.
Yeah.
Like, it could be fucking dangerous. You don't know. Now, if you've got a simulation between the two of you in several thousand miles, presumably.
Still creepy. But not
Still
bad.
creepy, but fine.
Reading
got
that
a
from,
barrier.
Reading that from his perspective, you get the like some small obsession over it.
Yeah.
Now, reading that from her perspective, I don't know if you catch on to that.
Yeah, well, reading Jeffrey Dahmer's story from his perspective, it's like, yeah, he's charming sometimes, but he still eats people.
No. I know. I'm just saying, like, he's trying to scale back a little bit as he's just because he's obsessed with their blog. Like
that was
we
good.
were
Make
just
sure you
talking,
keep that in.
You
that
can
was
be
good.
obsessed with
you guys
their
didn't
band.
laugh like I thought you should, but
No.
I laughed.
I'm trying. Like you can be obsessed with their band, but like try to like scale back. Like, hey, I think you're an amazing songwriter. Every fucking word that you write is amazing and melts me to my bone. That's not what he's saying. He's kind of just he's taken back by it, but he's trying to. I don't know if he's not trying to play it cool. He's just trying to play it straight. If you know what I'm saying. Like he's. It's almost like I want to display no emotion here.
he's certainly not stoned, not like hippie Johnny. He's straight. It's Modern Lovers. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't get that reference.
Yes,
But
you
I'm
do.
just saying,
Okay,
no,
I think-
Modern Lovers, I don't get the reference.
I
But I'm
think
just
Chris-
saying, like, he doesn't want to display an emotion towards him meeting her.
Chris needs to be the
Like,
voice of
oh,
reason right now.
Hey, that's you. This is me. This is us crossing paths. Where it means much more to him than he's giving off. You know what I mean? The encounter itself is meaning more to him than he's giving off.
I think it's fandom. And I think like if you're a musician and you've got fans, you accept that. You put your life out there. People, you've got pictures. There, people know shit about your mom and where your brother and sister live, and they're following everyone that's in your ecosphere.
But she's not
I mean,
acting like that.
No.
She
That's not what I'm
doesn't
getting at.
act
That's not what
like
I'm getting
that,
at.
yeah.
That's not what I'm getting at. I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about Parzival. So I think there's that level where, you know, it's different when somebody comes to you and you're at the same level versus when you come to like a rock star and you know everything about them and now you're a fan. And then you have that, well, it's not creepy. It's just, it's a fan. And the fan is of a slightly lower level, even though they might know all kinds of shit about you. But somebody that's at your level, like to have two musicians that are really high and then they meet and then they admire each other and they've kind of been following each other, it's mutually flattering. And here
But
she
that's the
is.
interesting part about it is the fact that like he's looking up to her in a way, but yet he's above her in his progress in the hunt.
Well, and
Well,
that is the reason
that's
why.
Not true, though.
That's the reason why I think that he gets her respect as well. She recognizes, here's this guy I don't know anything about, but he's here.
Yeah.
And he beat a Serac, or he faced him and got away at a level 10.
Yeah, somehow
gotta have
because
skills.
at first she doesn't know, like,
Yeah, she
okay,
doesn't know
did you
first.
defeat him in joust?
We'll get to
or
that
did you
eventually.
fight him? Because
So-
he says he lost, and then she looks behind him and like, oh wow, he's on the ground, like
She's-
you obviously defeated him somehow.
She's meeting an under the radar equal.
Yeah.
So you have, it's almost like two artists meeting and having mutual respect. And that's how I read this. And eventually, very quickly, when their facades break and they get kind of real with each other, that's when she's like, I'm sorry for calling you a dweebazoid. He's like, well, to be honest, I've kind of been a fan of yours. And doesn't get like real deep, just kind of like, I'm an admirer.
It was sweet and endearing.
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah.
But, he admittedly didn't let her know.
The level.
Yeah,
The
they
level
kind of
of-
were brought
yeah.
to the same level
Yeah.
by the end of the chapter.
It's a relation point. I mean, like how well can you relate to the person? I mean, like if you think about it, Wade's been brought in at a disadvantage, and it's an even further disadvantage because he's brought in with the advantage
Poor
of having
Ducky.
reached that point.
Yeah.
So, like I was saying before, he's got the confidence to go into that situation and actually speak up, but at the same time, it's like I can't remember the fucking quote, but it's like, you're always the star of your own movie. So like the way that you picture other people is through this fucking lens.
It's through your lens. Yeah.
It's through your own lens.
Sure.
So like you can see all your own shit, but you don't see theirs. Like
Yeah.
you have to understand, like he's just meeting her. I mean, like,
Yeah.
so
Which
he's
again,
got these rose-colored glasses as far as she's concerned, but he's got his whole history to deal with going into that conversation.
which
So it's a
again
point of
would
relate,
be
like they have something to relate upon that point, but she's bringing that into this conversation too. And I think that's the reason that this conversation is so interesting, is because it's both of them kind of fighting that point. Like to her, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but she almost looks at him like, fuck. I mean, like to him, it's like, you're level 52, you're a blogger, you're accomplished, and of course you're here. Like to him, it's almost not surprising. I mean, he doesn't even seem that surprised that it's her at the very beginning.
Again,
To her, she seems kind of surprised.
That's the intrigue behind her perspective of this chapter.
And exactly,
like,
is that she looks at him and she's like, fuck, man, you're
that
nobody. How did you end up here?
Yeah, from that initial line, who the hell are you, means so much more from her perspective than it does from his.
Well, I mean,
just from his, he's like, well, I just won the copper key. This is great. I know where I'm going.
Well,
turns around and, oh, fuck, what is this? To her, like, I've spent 5 weeks in this,
but keep him
pursuing this quest.
Keep in mind their levels and names are hidden. At the very beginning.
but he does not appear. He does not appear to be of equal level.
Right. And she can tell that
right off
the
bat.
She can
like,
tell that
you are
right away
not
because of what he's wearing.
Yeah, because he says, "Well, I had a bunch of hit points." She sees through that BS. Like, no, you didn't. Like, you have all of the shit that you have equipped right now is the stuff that you have obtained through the Tomb of Horrors.
I borrowed my grandfather's Mercedes to take you to the prom. I don't own a Mercedes.
Right. So she knows that he's not a very high level. He has his name hidden and everything. But she knows I'm superior to you in level when she sees him.
I really identified with him whenever he said he put himself in third person view so that he could check out his new.
Yes,
you know what I mean. I was like, I do that all the time in Skyrim.
Oh,
I'm like, damn,
in
I look
RPGs.
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Damn, I look good.
Yeah.
Anytime you equip something that you think like, oh, this has gotta look cool to somebody else,
Yes.
then you go to third person, it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, just a slow
That's gonna look
spin.
sweet.
You're like, damn, I look good.
Damn, I look good.
Jesus fucking Christ.
What is a Sararak? Can we just talk about
Sararak is the demi-lich.
a Sararak?
A Sararak.
Oh,
I'd like a side of sweet tea with a Sararak, please.
I imagine Skeletor, like a Skeletor's evil kind of
Cobra.
With ruby eyes.
Yeah, Cobra grandfather.
Every
Whoa.
time he
Cobra
talked,
the movie?
No, Cobra.
Don't do that.
Not the movie starring fucking
Sylvester
Stallone.
Stallone.
No, not a movie. God, never
I'm
a
gonna
movie.
Hand it back.
Not
You
that
take
Cobra.
another step, I'm gonna blow this place up. Go ahead. I don't shop here.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Cobra Commander
Okay.
from G.I. Joe.
Are we talking about anything Ready Player One?
Yes, we were.
Well, I'm just asking because I'm going to take a piss if we're not
Oh,
talking
God.
about it.
Go pee now.
Go pee now. We're going to phase back in and then you can join the conversation.
This concludes part 1 of Chapter 9. Part 2 will be out as soon as they put the seat down and wash their hands. We are on Apple, Google Play, Stitcher, and everywhere quality podcasts can be found. If you want my body, and you think I'm sexy, come on sugar, let me know by rating this podcast on iTunes.
And welcome to Get to
Are you crying?
Allow myself to introduce
myself.
My name is Richie Cunningham, and this is my wife, Oprah.
Christ. I had this all planned out. I've got it written down right in front of me. And
It's like
for
you
some
started
reason,
sobbing slowly. And this is get to the good part.
I also like to live dangerous. I suggest you hit, sir.